Florida housing market in 2025? Is it set to explode with opportunity, or are we headed for a crash? We'll see what the experts have to say, and then I'll tell you what I think. All right, so let's start with Zillow. Zillow has an article here where they're talking about kind of what's going on in the market, at least their projection for 2025. And so they're saying home values are going to probably grow nationally by about 2.6%. I don't think that's a bad number. I've seen as low as 2 and I've seen as high as 2.8, but I think that's a pretty good number. And they're saying that the rates are going to stay around 6.5%. I think that we're going to see probably 6% at its lowest. I don't see 5% coming back for a while. And there's a caveat to that. So if the rates get down to 5% or below, we're probably going to see a ton of people coming back in the market looking at buying, which, if you think about supply and demand, as soon as you have more demand and less supply, the cost goes back up, the value goes back up. And so then we're in kind of a catch-22 situation. Yeah, we lowered the rate, making it more affordable, but we've also increased the competition, and now they're going to compete against each other. The buyers are going to compete to get a house that they want like they did in 2020, and the prices are going to escalate. So we kind of, if you think about it, and we'll talk about this a little bit more later, but you kind of want that 6%, 6.5% rate, even though it's a drag because it makes your monthly mortgage a lot less affordable. But like I said, we'll talk about that in a second. Now, one of the things that I noticed here is the volatility, and I'm gonna show you a graph that's really kind of a cool way of showing this. But the volatility of interest rates, mortgage interest rates, and how they've jumped up and down. And so I think for the rest of this article, they're talking about the Southwest and pet-friendly, non-negotiable renting and all this other nonsense. I think that's pretty much what we can glean from this particular article. If we go to Redfin, okay, theirs is a little bit, well, kind of the same thing. They're saying that mortgage rates are probably going to stay around the 6% range through 2025, and they're going to be averaging around 6.8. I don't know if that's going to be the case. I think it's going to be a little bit lower than that. I think it's going to be between 6 and say 6.5. And we don't know what the president's going to do. So Donald Trump is now going to be coming into office in a couple of weeks. And with him coming into office, there's a lot of stuff that he's saying he's going to do that may or may not affect the housing market. When it comes to things like deregulation, getting energy back on track so that we have cheaper energy, all of those things could bring new homes down closer to where they need to be. Now, that doesn't do a whole lot for the supply and demand side of retail homes. And remember, retail homes are homes that have been built, have been around since the 1900s all the way up into 2024. But they're homes that you would go out and look at right now that aren't either pre-built or new construction. And so new construction is going to depend a lot on what happens with what Trump does in the coming year or 2 years or whatever. And so if energy costs go down, if deregulation hits us in the right way, and it's easier for builders to go out and find properties and build homes and not have as much red tape and paperwork, we could see home values for new construction homes come a lot further down. And they're already competing with each other at this point. Now, aside from that, I'm not going to get into the tariffs thing because, that could be a huge, mess. They're saying that there are going to be more home sales in 2025 than in 2024. That I can definitely agree with because I'm already seeing that. So what's happening right now is in 2024, we had a few things going against us. We had the rise in interest rates, so mortgage interest went through the roof. We had an election year, and everybody was freaking out about the election year. I get that. So now that all of that's over, a lot of the people that have been waiting to make a purchase or to put their house on the market are starting to come back in the market because they're like, why am I going to wait? I still need this. I still need to be able to move to get that job in Albuquerque or wherever. I still need to be able to downsize because the house is killing me. I still want to sell and buy something else. So I'm seeing more people put their homes on the market because of that. We're not going to get into the renters market. And yeah, like we said, fewer construction regulations are going to lead to more home building. And that's pretty much par for the course. So when you have fewer regulations, not that we want to just, throw the baby out with the bathwater, we want some regulations put in place, but unnecessary regulation will make it harder for builders to build. And that's not going to get us out of the deficit that we have right now, which some people are saying a lot of people are saying that it's 5 million homes that we're behind in building. I disagree. I think it's more like 15 because we've had generations now that have been coming into the market and generations that have not been selling. And so, we have the millennials, we have the Gen Z, we have boomers that are hanging on to their homes. Maybe they refinanced in 2020. They're down to 2.65, 3.25, whatever it is. They don't want to get rid of that house because they can't afford to sell it and get into something at 6.5 or 7%. And so there's still a lot of room for builders to come in and really start flooding the market and evening the market out so that on the supply and demand side, we're going to see, the shift between a buyer's market and a seller's market. Right now, we have been in a protracted seller's market. Sellers have been pretty much in charge of the game. That's how you have to look at it. When there are very few homes on the market, the values go up, and when there's a lot of demand, it goes up even further. So few homes on the market, a lot of demand for housing from buyers, that's a seller's market. And that means the seller pretty much tells you what they want and you have to kind of deal with it. That's not to say that the house may not appraise if it's overvalued for the area or for the neighborhood, but the sellers are kind of in charge. Now, I'm already starting to see here in Central Florida and other areas in Florida where the time on market has gone way up. So during 2020, you put the house on the market for a few hours, it's already got an offer, maybe even 5 or 6 or more. Now we're seeing offers not coming in until 30, 40, 55, 60 days. That's telling me that we're climbing slowly but steadily back to a balanced market. If you're new to the channel, my name is Vince Reina. I'm a local real estate agent here in Central Florida. Whether you're moving from across the country, out of state, or across the street, I know that I can help you. And so if you'd like to contact me, just fill out my registration form at talkwithvince.com, and I'll be more than happy to give you a call back. If you'd like to just talk to me right now, well, not while I'm filming, of course, but if you really want to talk to me right now or talk to me soon, just call 863-220-8260. I'm always ready to pick up the phone and have a chat. Talk to you soon. Now, technically, a balanced market is going to be about 6 months worth of inventory. Here in Central Florida and other places in Florida, a balanced market traditionally has been about 3 or 4 months. So when you get below that 3-month mark, you're more in a seller's market. When you get above that 3 or 4 month mark, now you're more in a buyer's market where now there's more homes on sale in the neighborhood, and the sellers have to kind of coax the buyers to come and buy their homes. And that means that they may be willing to help you with closing costs. They may be willing to buy a home warranty or make repairs or do other things that traditionally during a seller's market they may not want to do or may not need to. Okay, so let's move on. All right, this I do not agree with. I do not agree with this wholeheartedly. So if you guys remember the video that I did, and I'll post it back up here, on the National Association of Realtors and what changes have been made as of August 17th, I believe. Basically, we decoupled the commissions because of all of this. And like I said, it's all explained in that video. But by decoupling the commission, that means that the seller pays their commission to the listing agent. The buyer would pay their commission to the buyer's agent. So everybody's paying separately now. It's not like it was where you go to sell your home, You negotiate, 4, 5, 6, 7%, whatever it is, commission with the seller, and then the agent says, well, I want to split that commission 50-50, or if it's a 6%, 7%, I want 4, and I'm going to give them 3, whatever the case may be. You guys agree on that. That's not how it works anymore. And so as a buyer, you have to pay the commission to your agent that's representing you, helping you find a home, just like the seller does. Now, here's the thing that really, really does not make sense to me. It's saying that wealthy people will pay less to buy and sell homes. That is only if they're working with an agent that does not have experience and does not have a track record of helping people. So I'll give you an example. Most very wealthy people are not that shady or greedy. I know a lot of that goes against what you hear or what the media tells you, but most wealthy people, especially if they're in business, they understand that people need to make a living. They need to be able to feed their families. And I'll give you a great example of this. I was helping a gentleman who was moving from out of state, and he was wanting to buy a house over in Bel Air Beach, and that's on the West Coast, right on the water. And we were looking at homes around 2 million, 2.5 million, somewhere's in there. And at one point, we found a home that was a buy owner. Now, traditionally, homes that are sold by owner, the sellers don't really want to pay the commission. And so, I told him, I said, look, this is a buy owner. Let's go take a look at it and see what we can do. And the first thing that came out of his mouth is he said, look, if the seller doesn't want to pay your commission, I'll pay it for you. Now, this was a $2 million home. So, we need to understand that these things that they say are also dependent on the author of the article and where their mind sits, not the realities of the market. You're not always going to have sellers that are very wealthy that are greedy or, cheap. So I don't agree with that at all. Yeah, so let's kind of move on, because a lot of this is one thing that I will say we need to look at. So because of the hurricanes, Helene and Milton, they're saying that climate risks will be priced into individual homes, especially in coastal Florida. That I can kind of understand, but it's going to be more what you're paying for insurance than anything else. What you're paying for insurance on the coast or down south is going to be astronomical because of this, because of all the damages and everything that happened when hurricanes Helene and Milton came through. So that I can definitely see. The rest of this article, Gen Z will rewrite the American dream, cutting ownership from the script. Bullcrap. Absolute bullcrap. So here's the thing, when it comes to Gen Z, just like with millennials, anybody who is, and this does not really go by age, it's anybody who is struggling to afford to buy a home. The main thing that we need to understand as a culture in the United States is number one, your home is not a guaranteed right of ownership through the Constitution or the Bill of Rights. You don't have a right to own a home. You buy a home because you can afford a home. Back in the 40s, 50s, 60s, people, 9 times out of 10, they were in their 40s, sometimes 50s or older, before they could literally buy a home. They couldn't afford it. And so we need to understand that. But the second thing that's really important is everybody has this idea that your home is an asset. It is not an asset. It is a debit in your ledger. In other words, when you buy that home, you're buying something that does not make you money. An asset is something that makes you money. So whether it's stocks, ETFs, whether it's crypto, whatever the case may be, if it's making you money, then it's an asset. If it's not making you money, it's just a debit on your ledger. And so thinking that your home is an asset, no, it's a place for you to make memories. And that's really what you have to think about. So my encouragement to millennials and Gen Z, if it's your first home, really look inside of your heart, discuss it with your partner, and say, how much home do we really need? Because you want your first home to be very affordable. Yeah, maybe it's not going to be the brand new $400,000 home, 4 bedrooms with the pool and all of that. Maybe it's going to be a 2 bedroom home that when you are further along financially, you'll rent and that will become your asset. But in the meantime, you'll have made memories there. And so just be thinking about that because there are a lot of opportunities for homes, especially in Central Florida, under $200,000, which is more than affordable for most people. And so even with the interest rates the way they are, buying a home, hanging on to it until you're at a point financially where you can get into another home and then using it to create an asset, that's a fantastic way to go. All right, so I'm going to stop talking. Let's go to Realtor.com. All right, so Realtor.com says that there will be a Trump bump in housing in 2025. So basically, what they're saying is because of all the things that Trump is looking at doing, we're going to see a little bit of a bump. The economy is going to get a little bit better, and we may see that affect the housing market. I think in a lot of ways, like we talked about before, when it comes to energy or when it comes to deregulation, and even the whole Doge thing with Elon Musk and Ramaswamy, wanting to streamline the government. I think they're exactly right. I think we are going to see a little bit of a bump, hopefully a lot larger bump than we're expecting. So I definitely agree with this. The other thing is they're saying 3.7 months average to 4.1 months in 2025 as far as time on market. I agree. We're going to see somewhere between 3.5 and 4 months as being more of a balanced market, especially here in Florida, especially in Central Florida. I don't know if that 11.7% increase in home inventory is going to play out simply because most of the increases in home inventory have recently been from new construction. But that's starting to kind of tone down. I'm thinking it's probably going to be 6 to 8%, probably not 11 or 12. New home construction is toned down. There's still a lot of people that can't really sell. They can't afford to sell a mortgage with an interest rate at 2.65 or 3%. So they may hold out. Now we're going to see some homes come out on the market. I think we're going to see a lot more than we did last year, but I think 2025 is not going to break that 11%. I think it's going to sit probably somewhere around 6 to 8%, somewhere's in there. I kind of agree with this and kind of don't. Bear in mind, home prices have year over year for the past 3 or 4 years have gone up depending on the area, sometimes 10%, 15%. There's been a couple of areas that have gone up 30%. I mean, it's ridiculous. You can't sustain that. And so I kind of agree with this, but kind of don't. And if you want to drop me a comment, let me know what you think. I'd love to hear from you. All right, next up, the Florida housing market from Narada Real Estate Investments. They are saying that, well, they're kind of saying the same things. This is all starting to get kind of the same. So they're saying that sales of existing single-family homes fell by 2.3% compared to 2023. Condos, especially here in Florida, and especially in Central Florida, the condo market's been very flat for a long time. We're just not, Central Florida is just not a condo, a good condo area. Now, parts of Central Florida like Orlando or Tampa, you're going to have, probably a lot more condo sales. On the beaches in Clearwater and St. Pete, the condo market has dropped completely because of that one condo that crumbled. And now all of the condos that have been built, the oldest condos built in the 50s, 60s, whatever, they're all now suspect as to whether or not they've been maintained properly. So the condo market is not really the hottest. Okay. So they're saying that inventory levels are going to rise. We're going to see a 4 to 6 month supply. I think for Central Florida, we're going to see a 3 to 4 month supply. That's pretty close. I got into the real estate business in 2014, and from 2014 on, I think the longest homes were on the market were 3 to 3.5 months, and that's for us, especially in Central Florida. That's kind of a balanced market. So I'm not really sure about that. Okay, they're talking about Miami. So I will say this: better inventory is good news for buyers, because the more homes are on the market, the less sellers have that hold on the market, which means you're going to be able to really work through and find some deals. Florida housing. This is from the Florida Realtors. Bearing in mind, when you start talking about realtors, a lot of realtors paint a much brighter picture than what they should, because they're thinking that if they paint a brighter picture for you, you're going to want to buy something. That's not the way it works. You need to know what's going on. You need to know kind of what's happening in order to make a decision. And I don't want to paint a rosy picture for you, because I don't think it's going to be necessarily that rosy. I think it's going to be better, a lot better, but it's not going to be like 2020 rosy. It's going to be better. All right. So I'm not really going to get too far into this. I started thinking about this, and I'm like, you know what? It really, I don't know. So let's go on to something that I know that I want you guys to see. Okay, so this is mortgage interest rates from the 50s all the way to 2024. Okay, so I want you to see this. In the 50s, and this graph doesn't show exactly. I'd love to see more numbers here. I couldn't find a graph that was that, you know, detailed. But in the 50s, interest went. Oh, this is from 1971. I'm sorry. And so this is from 1971 on up. So in the 70s, interest was around 6.5, 7%. Now, if you find the information online, and it's there, and I've already done it, I couldn't find the graph that I wanted. But in the 50s, interest rates were around 4.5%, 4.25. So they went up to 6.5, 7% in the 70s. In the 80s, about mid 80s, they went up over 18%. They were actually 19.65%, believe it or not. Then they started to drop and kind of like do this whole number here until we got down to 2020, where they went down to 2.64%. And now they've come up. Now, what that means for you as you're thinking about purchasing and what interest rates mean to you is that interest is only one factor. Interest can rise and fall. And so if the interest rates, and this is the way that I did things when I bought my first house, if I bought the house, which I bought my house in 1991, and it was at 9%. So it had fallen from here down to about right there. And so at 9%, I thought I was getting a deal. It was half price, basically. And then a few years later, it went down to 4.25. So I refinanced. I figured, hey, I'm getting a number of percentages off of what I had been paying. And so my monthly payment went way down, and I stayed with that 4.25 all the way through this. So if you look at this as a whole, from 71 on, interest rates have averaged around 5.5%, maybe a little bit more. And so the thing that we have to look at is how much do you actually pay for a home depending on the interest rate. And this is why I tell you that your home is not an asset. So you have a 3% interest rate on a $400,000 home, your monthly payments are going to be $1,686. But your total interest rate, or your total interest paid, is $207,109.81. That's insane. Now, you get up to 3.5%, and now your payment goes up $50-$60, but you just added another $40,000. And it keeps going up at 5%, you're looking at $373. So think of it this way. Let's say, for example, instead of a $400,000 house, you were looking at a $200,000 house. Okay? That $200,000 house is a good home for you to make memories in right now. Fantastic. So you make memories, and you're only looking at, through the duration of the loan, you're only looking at paying $100 and some odd thousand in interest. Now, what if you did your best to pay this house off at $200,000? What if you paid it off in 7 years? This is probably going to go down to 65, maybe 70,000. So you'll have saved yourself a ton of money. Now, if you want to know more about, paying down a house or whatever, just look up Dave Ramsey. He's got a lot of good information on how to get your house paid off quickly, how to get out of debt, all of that. Everybody pretty much knows who he is. But if you don't know who he is, check out Dave Ramsey and Financial Peace University, and you'll have a huge education on how to get out of debt, how to get out of credit card debt, how to be debt free, and how to pay off your home fast. So do you agree with what we just talked about? If you do, if you don't, whatever, go ahead and give me a comment. Let me know what you think. I want to know what you guys are thinking about, where you think the market's heading. Let me know your opinions, and I'll see you on the next video.